In a faraway planet called Chiton, a woman gives birth while her husband, John, brings the baby to her. The couple is endeared, seeing the baby cry, but suddenly they hear the sound of a spaceship approaching. Thinking of what to do next, his wife suggests that they hide the baby, but John says they will still find him. She asks what else they can do, and John says there's only one thing left before both of them look at the space pod simultaneously. As the spaceship lands on top of their tower, John busies himself on inputting the coordinates on the pod, choosing the US because he thinks it is the most advanced zone on the planet. As the pod flies off, the two look at it longingly. When the door bursts open and soldiers come marching, they stand aside to give way to a man seated in a hovering egg, the dictator Skorba, who greets them a good morning. While the pod flies further away, the soldiers grab the couple while Skorba interrogates them, asking John where he sent the baby. John refuses to cooperate, and Skorba threatens to push the button that will end all things. Suddenly, her daughter Agata emerges from his side and tells him that she can help. To show him that she's useful, Agata turns to John and reads his mind, discovering that he sent the pod to a blue planet called Earth. To prove her worth, Agata boards the pod, and before she flies off, Skorba reminds her that he wants the baby alive. She vows to capture him flying off into space and manages to catch up to the baby's pod. Just when the baby's pod is about to reach Earth, it collides with a satellite, changing the course of its flight. Agata lands in the USA, while the baby's pod flies to Spain. On Earth, a couple named Juan and Maria are driving on their way back when the baby's pod almost collides with their truck. They get off their truck to check it, and when the pod opens, they see the baby. Maria takes the baby into her arms and shows him off to Juan, who slowly warms up to him after not liking him first because of his mustache. But as soon as the baby grabs Juan's index finger, he bends it backward, which makes Juan scream out loud. They take him home and Juan shaves off the baby's mustache, but as soon as he does, it grows back. They name him Juan, but fondly call him Juanito, and raise him as their son. As Juanito grows older, they discover that he has super strength, super sight, and super speed, which he uses sometimes. But in doing so, the other children find him weird. One day, Juanito has a soccer match where he plays the goalkeeper because he doesn't know who to kick the ball to. While also feeling the pressure, he decides to use his super speed to shoot the goal himself. None of his teammates are happy with him when he finally scores a goal. After that, his father Juan reprimands him for using his powers in public. On his birthday, Juanito waits outside for his friends, but none of them come. Juan tries to comfort him while Maria brings the cake to them, just as Juanito tells them that they didn't want to come because he's weird. Juan tells Juanito that tall poppies get cut down, and if he stands out, people will grind him in Spain. Maria moves the cake closer to him and tells Juanito to make a wish. He closes his eyes and wishes to be normal, then blows the cake, splattering most of it on his parents' faces. Fast forward to 20 years later, he's now a full-grown man called Juan. Currently, Juan sleeps on his couch when he wakes up to his phone ringing. He answers it and talks to his friend and boss, Jaime, who assumes he's late again. Juan lies, but Jaime tells him that he just checked his place and Juan wasn't there. Juan's excuse this time is that he was in the bathroom, which makes Jaime order him to come to his office now. Juan dresses up quickly and manages to arrive before Jaime. When Jaime reaches him, Juan pretends that he has been working for a while now. Juan notices the perfume Jaime is wearing, asking when he started using it. Jaime tells him that this is the reason why he wants to talk to Juan in the first place, admitting to his friend that the girl he hired is starting today. Juan frowns at Jaime, telling him off that he can't treat the workplace as a dating pool, but Jaime says it's pretty much the same. Jaime asks for help to plan a party for her, but Juan says that they never even had a welcoming party before. Having enough of his friend's request, Juan walks off to tell Jaime that he'll just go and get breakfast. As Juan tries to get a chocolate bar that's stuck from the vending machine, he notices a presence from outside and uses super sight. Juan sees the new girl and realizes that it's Luisa, a friend from college. He buzzes her in and she thinks that he's the receptionist. Fast forward to a while later, they celebrate Luisa's welcoming party with just Juan, Jaime, and two other janitors who are past their working hours. Luisa finds the party awkward, so she excuses herself to use the toilet. In the end, Luisa still leaves the party just as Juan fetches more ice for them. Next, Juan hurries to the station and makes it to the platform, but Luisa is not there. Suddenly, he hears her calling him from the other side. He asks her out for dinner, but she turns him down because the train is arriving. Upon boarding, Luisa gets shocked when she turns and sees Juan behind her, asking if she likes olives. The two go to a pizza parlor and catch up talking about the past. However, their conversation gets ruined when a group of rowdy teens walk in. Luisa suddenly shouts at them to be quiet before getting up and hitting one of them on the butt with her bag. The kid turns to Juan, asking him if he's gonna hit back, but Juan is firm, trying to de-escalate the situation. The kid threatens that he can just use a finger to put Juan down, which Juan says is impossible until it happens. It turns out that one of the kids knelt behind Juan's legs, making him lose his balance. Cut to the next scene. Juan sits at the station, remembering what his father said to him on his birthday. He gets snapped back to reality when he hears the announcement for the final train, but a moment later, the train comes rushing past them since the brakes have malfunctioned. Juan sees a poster that reads, "It's time, take the step," and takes this as a cue to use his powers. He rushes to the next station and tries to stop the train there, but fails. He runs again to the station after that, where Juan uses the fire hose to stop the train along with his strength. He manages to pull it off before exiting the station while trying hard to hide himself. Meanwhile, in America, Scorba's daughter Agata has become an established figure in the industry as the founder of Chit Technologies. She's currently showcasing her company's newest cleaning invention, CheetahBot. Her presentation gets cut when one of her men informs her that they found him. Agata walks off stage as she checks if they really found John's son. Unfortunately, she can't see his face in the CCTV footage, but this is enough proof for her to go see him. The next day, news of a man stopping the train quickly spread, and everyone in the office is watching the news coverage of it. Luisa thinks a Spanish hero laughable and thinks it's a publicity stunt, while Juan tries to defend the hero. Their attention turns to the TV again, because news of Agata visiting their country becomes a hot topic. Agata addresses the man who stopped the train that she would like to meet him because she thinks they can do great things together. Meanwhile, in Chit Technologies' headquarters in Barcelona, Agata contacts Scorba, telling him that it's time to go home because she found John's son. Scorba continues to criticize her daughter before warning her that if she doesn't have him when he arrives, he will raise Earth along with her. On the other hand, Juan is on the bus, running late to his dinner with Luisa, and informs her that he's just a few minutes away. Suddenly, he hears a ringing that only he can hear as Agata communicates with him, but Juan thinks that it's just the radio. There are two things she needs to tell him. First is for Juan not to talk to her because she can't hear him, and two, for Juan to see her, and she will explain everything. Juan gets off the bus and walks straight to Agata's office, where she sits waiting for him. He recognizes her as the vacuum lady, while Agata tries to butter up to him. She goes on about how they are the same, coming from the same planet, but Juan refuses to believe so. Shortly after, Juan decides to walk away, but not before Agata reads his mind and sees Luisa waiting for him. Agata tries to use force by having one of her men hold him back, but Juan easily defeats him. She tries to use more men to capture him, but again, Juan manages to escape, so she decides to use his weakness, telling her men that she wants Luisa's DNA. Back at the office, Jaime leaves a note on Luisa's table, just as the Chit vacuum cleaner starts to process the lip mark left on Luisa's cup. The noises it makes draw Jaime's attention, who walks over and sees the data analysis the vacuum is sending. The vacuum suddenly starts attacking him, and lucky for him, the two other janitors are there to help him destroy the machine, just as Jaime calls Luisa to warn her. Back to Juan, he stands hunched in front of Luisa's door when he hears her call him from behind. Juan runs over to Luisa, but she tells him off for waiting too long at the restaurant. The two fight as Luisa tells Juan that he should have just said that he's not interested in her in the first place, while he tells her that something strange happened to him on the way there. Upset with how he chooses to walk away from her, Luisa starts insulting him. Jaime sees them together, making him feel betrayed. Just then, a Chit Technologies van arrives behind Jaime, where Agata is on board. She discovers he also likes Luisa and tells him that if comes with her, she will help him get Luisa. Juan goes home to his parents' house to know more about his birth. They both try to hide the truth, but in the end, they decide to reveal it to him. After Juan tells them that a girl showed up and claims that she wants to take him to another galaxy. His parents show him the space pod that carried him to Earth, and as soon as Juan touches it, a hologram of his real father, John, shows up. John explains who he is and what happened to their planet. Juan is still not convinced, but his father urges him to embrace who he is. Meanwhile, his mother rummages through the pod and finds a piece of cloth with an S printed on it. Next thing we know, Juan is already wearing the suit his mother made out of the cloth. When their conversation turns into his flying ability, they decide to test it out by having Juan practice on top of a building. He makes various gestures before his parents finally convince him to jump, only for him to fall flat on his face. Upset at the results, Juan walks away before he bumps into a couple of kids. The kids make fun of him, and when Juan starts levitating, the kids run off scared. He does this a couple of times, landing in different places until he finally reaches home. A while later, Luisa comes knocking at their door. When Juan sees her, she immediately walks over him for a hug. She tells him that she already knows about everything, so they head to his room to talk about it. Luisa tries to put in a good word about Agata, but Juan thinks there are more important matters they need to discuss, like what happened last night. Agata doesn't know anything about this, so she makes Jaime take over the fake Luisa. Jaime couldn't help but feel angry toward him, but when Juan says that he needs to talk to Jaime first about all of this because he is his friend, Jaime couldn't help but feel touched. Agata tries to control the situation by punching Juan and starts fighting him. Juan tries his best to fend her off, but the fake Luisa has the upper hand. His mother decides to join in, hitting her with her shoes, which angers Juan as he smacks fake Luisa's head off. Meanwhile, Jaime decides to withdraw from Agata's ploy, already warning Juan that Agata plans to kidnap Luisa. Agata finds out about this and decides to use Jaime and the real Luisa as bait. Back at home, Juan's mother urges him to save Luisa, so he flies off to see her. They meet at the Arco de Triunfo, with Juan asking her questions to know if she's the real deal. When he confirms her, Luisa asks what's going on with him, and Juan finally tells her everything. She refuses to believe him until he shows her proof, and just when he is about to do it, a couple of men in cosplay intervene and pick a fight with him. While all of this is happening, Luisa gets kidnapped by Agata's men and tells him that if he wants to save her, then he must join Agata and her father to rule the world. Juan immediately flies off to Agata's headquarters to see Luisa and Jaime tied up. Luisa still doesn't believe that he has powers, while Jaime urges him to use them so he can prove it to her. Juan decides to use super sight and tells Luisa what kind of clothes she is wearing. As he was about to untie her, Agata uses the ringing frequency, hurting Juan as he grovels on the floor. Jaime and Luisa cheer him on to fight through the pain. When it doesn't work, Jaime insults him, which Luisa notices to be more effective. They start insulting him when Scorba finally lands on Earth. He meets with Agata first, dismissive toward her and saying he's excited to see John's son. Agata leads her father and his men to where Juan is. Luisa and Jaime continue to insult Juan until he manages to burn a hole through the wall for them to escape. On the other hand, Scorba keeps comparing Agata to her relatives and how she performs poorly compared to them. Soon, Agata discovers that Juan and the two manage to escape, earning an earful of insults from her father. When Scorba asks her where her medal is in doing things, she responds by pulling off his oxygen. In his dying moments, Agata reads his mind and finally gets his father's approval. Now, she becomes the leader of his troops and takes over his seat. Meanwhile, Juan takes Luisa and Jaime back home, where Juan decides to quit being a superhero and burns his suit. Scorba's spaceship appears later, and Agata descends from it. Juan walks to her and says he has no plans of going back with her, but Agata says she will raise the planet instead, starting with this town as she finally pushes the button. The egg immediately transforms into a giant robot, and a fight ensues. Juan's father intervenes and gets sucked into Agata's machine. Meanwhile, the three kids from before watch from a distance as Juan gets thrashed by Agata. He gets thrown away and lands in the middle of a soccer match, where he grabs hold of the net. Back at the farm, Agata starts chasing after his mother, and Juan flies back in time only to drop the net wrongly on his mother, making Agata capture her as well. Juan gets smacked to the ground and gets repeatedly stomped by Agata's robot. Just as she is about to finish Juan off with her razor disc, Jaime comes out to distract her. He also gets sucked, and just when Agata is about to cut Juan, Luisa comes driving toward Juan and starts insulting him. Jaime and his parents start doing this too, making Juan regain consciousness. Before Agata can suck Luisa, Juan rips off her robot's arm. He starts punching the robot while Luisa tells Juan to do what the boys did to him on their first date. Luisa parks the truck by the pool, and just when Agata is near it, Juan uses his icy breath and pushes her to the pool. Jaime and the rest swim up while Juan checks on them. Juan and Luisa reunite again. When his mother asks what he plans to do about his home planet, Juan tells her he already has a plan. Scorba's ship returns to Chiton with Agata bound, but instead of Juan, the person present there is one of the costume guys who picked a fight with him. Cut to the next scene, Luisa is shutting the alarm off while Juan gets up. He wears the suit and flies over the city as the radio plays in the background about the citizens' conflicted feelings toward this hero. But Juan is happy, sitting on top of a statue. A while later, Luisa waits for Juan in a restaurant while he is running late again. The two fight about his need to make time for their relationship aside from his superhero activities. When they finally agree, Luisa tells him to pay for their bill, but the waiter tells them that a man from the bar already did. When they both turn to look at him, the hooded man calls him Superlopez and that he owes him before sucking a pacifier and disappearing. Thanks for tuning in. A thumbs up would be amazing because I've got some bills to pay.
Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right?